Mr. Ryan, I hope you're feeling better and getting better on that leg. This is the Geometry 4 quiz, which you were set to come back and take. You had already taken the note cards for it, but you missed that Friday. So I'm going to go back over this on the review again because it's been a while since you've had it. So I would suggest that you really try to do this over the fall break. And I'm going to send you the chapter test review also, but don't worry about that and work on that when you come back. But really try to get this chapter 4 quiz done. So here we go. Our first question, it'll help to follow along in the book on some of these problems, is on page 152, number 45 through 48. Now 45 is a right angle, so it's a right triangle, and it's got all different sides, so that's called right scaling. Scaling means all different sides. And on 46, we have two sides equal. That makes it an isosceles. And the one angle there is bigger than 90, so that makes it an obtuse isosceles. Now on 47, we have all sides equal, so that makes that all angles are less than 90 acute and is equilateral. And which triangles of all the ones that are on there, A through G, are impossible? And the ones that are right equilateral, because equilateral means 60, right means 90 degrees, and obtuse equilateral for the same reason. Equilateral means 60 degrees. Now problem 2 is write a verbal description of two corresponding angles implies 3 corresponding angles. So if 2 angles of a triangle are congruent to 2 angles of another triangle, then the third angles are also congruent. Now problem 3 is an example for the exterior angle theorem. We see the angle XYZ is 13x minus 5 is equal to the 2 remote interior angles 5x plus 3 plus 64. So solving for the algebra, we subtract 5x from both sides, and we get 8x is equal to 67, and we add the 5 over. So 8x is 72, or x is 9. Then angle W, which is the 5x plus 3, is 5 times 9, the x, plus 3, which is 48. And the measure of XYZ, the exterior angle, is 13 times 9 minus 5 on your calculator is 112 degrees. Now problem 4 is easy. It's just name all the pairs of corresponding parts if triangle ABC is congruent to triangle DEF. So we know that the first letters or angles are congruent. Angle A is congruent to angle D. Angle B is congruent to angle E. Angle C is congruent to angle F. And AB is congruent to DE, BC is congruent to EF, and AC is congruent to DF. So now problem 5 is a statement reason proof. Given that R is the midpoint of PT and QS, prove that triangle PQR is congruent to TSR. And on this one, we need all 3 angles congruent and all 3 sides congruent. So we're given that PQ is congruent to QS, that's a right angle Q, and that QS is perpendicular to ST, that's a right angle S, and that PQ is congruent to ST, those are given, and that R is the midpoint of PT and RS. And that last statement gives us the rest of the 3 sides. So statement 2, PR is congruent to RT, and QR is congruent to RS, the definition of midpoint. Then angle Q and S are right angles, definition of perpendicular. And angle Q is congruent to angle S because all right angles are congruent. We take those extra steps. And angle PRQ is congruent to angle TRS, the vertical angle theorem. And now angle P is congruent to angle T when 2 angles of a triangle correspond or congruent. Then the third angle that's corresponding is congruent. So therefore triangle PQR is congruent to triangle TSR by the definition of congruent triangles with all 6 corresponding parts congruent. And on question 6 we have a real short proof. We have given UVW is congruent to triangle XYZ, prove UV is parallel to XY. So we're given that triangle UVW is congruent to triangle XYZ given. Angle V is congruent to angle Y. Corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. And therefore UV is parallel to XY, converse of alternate interior angle theorem. Now problem 7 is page 165, number 7 and 8. And as marked, we see triangle ABC and DEF. And we have triangle BAC congruent to FED by SAS congruence. And for problem 8, we see triangle WYX is congruent to triangle YWZ by ASA congruence. The two angles that are on opposite sides are congruent, and WY is congruent to itself, making ASA. For problem 8, we have 165. Problem 9, we have triangle FGH and KLM. Both are equilateral triangles, but AAA is not a congruence theorem. But if we take FG congruent to KL, then we can make triangle FGH congruent to triangle KLM by ASA. And problem 9 is page 151, problem 13. If I have an exterior angle of 140, then angle M, or measure of angle I, plus 140 is 180 by supplementary. So therefore measure of I is 180 minus 140. And that's also congruent to H, so measure H is also 40. And then measure K is 180 minus 140, 2 times 40, or 180 minus 80, which is 100, which is really the triangle angle sum theorem. And then problem 10, given the figure, prove that QP is congruent to RS. So in the figure, angle Q is congruent to angle R, and angle TPS is congruent to angle TSP as shown. Those are given. So now angle PT is congruent to ST, converse of isosceles triangle theorem. And statement 3, angle QTP is congruent to angle RTS, vertical angle theorem. And therefore angle PQT is congruent to SRT, AAS congruence. And by then segment QP is congruent to segment RS by corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. And then this is a nice easy one to finish off. Write a flowchart proof for the figure given that AC, the long side is congruent to BC, the other long side, and that CAE angle is congruent to CBD angle is marked. Prove that AE is congruent to BD. So this is just a flowchart proof. So the givens are AC is congruent to BC, and angle CAE is congruent to CBD given, and also angle ACE is congruent to angle BCD, or angle C is congruent to itself, reflexive. And therefore we have two angles and an included side. So triangle AEC is congruent to triangle BDC by ASA congruence, and therefore AE is congruent to BD by corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. Now 12 was just too hard, so we're not going to do 12, and so we'll just do 1 through 11. But do your best, Landon, to get this quiz done, so you'll have chapter 2, you are still working on that test, and chapter 4 done and ready for me to grade when you come back on Monday, and I hope you'll be able to come back a week from Monday. So God bless you and take care of yourself, and I hope you heal up.